grandpa was a broke podcaster who started a bourbon company, so...
Welcome to Whiskeyland, a spirit journey where Ryan and I, two real-life brothers, hit the road in search of the best whiskeys from different regions around the world. Here, we find ourselves 10 days into our trip, at the heart of Whiskeyland, Louisville, Kentucky. At the end of a block sits an industrial warehouse with a UPS trailer sitting at the loading dock that we would later find out was a Facebook Marketplace purchase. Before we entered, I reflected on my time so far. We visited different regions in the Midwest this go-around, and asking the question, what is your Whiskeyland? It's a big question Ryan proposed early on. For him, it's a mythical place, a landscape made of memories and experience. For me, it's an emotional state. Most of the time it occurs at our dad's bar, a whiskey or two deep, laughing and talking with my brothers and our dad. Back at the warehouse, minimal signage leads us to a little door on the side of the building. I walk in and follow the signs into this big open warehouse where a small group of people prepare a bottling line. Here we meet Kenny Coleman and Ryan Cecil, two friends that years ago started a podcast that would lead them to start their own bourbon company. I wanted to hear how it all went down, but first, there was work to do. A fresh batch of double oaked bourbon had just been dumped and was ready to be bottled. So instead of sitting on the sidelines, I decided to jump in. This is terrifying, to be honest with you. Why? Because it's time sensitive. 1, 2, 3, 4. Or it burns the top. I burned basically 3 in a row right away. I did the whole run. Then they dumped another single barrel and Ryan jumped in. This was our first time being part of the whiskey making process. At the end of the day, heat sealing hundreds of bottles is a simple task, but it felt amazing to help. The folks around us were kind, curious, and passionate about whiskey. You could tell that Kenny and Ryan attracted good people. I wanted to learn more about Kenny and Ryan and what made them tick, so I asked them about growing up.
I grew up in Bardstown, Kentucky, bourbon capital of the world. My grandfather was a maintenance man for Four Roses, Seagram's at the time. My dad owned a small machine shop there in Bardstown, so he would do tool and die repair for the distilleries because it's old equipment. So I've just kind of grown up around my whole life, but quite frankly, no one cared about it for the majority of my life. And a bourbon distillery is no different from a manufacturing plant of, widgets and whatnot. Their widget just happens to be whiskey.
Bourbon was never really a part of growing up or anything a part of my childhood whatsoever. And it really wasn't until I got to college where I had my first real introduction with bourbon. And I ended up joining a fraternity on the University of Kentucky's campus that they're pretty well known for being the biggest bourbon drinkers on campus. And this was at the time when you would typically have a case of Natty Light at a party, but there was an upperclassman that said, "Not tonight, boys, we're drinking bourbon." And I don't know what it was about it. I mean, I kind of got hooked. I really enjoyed it. But like anybody else in their bourbon journey, it was bourbon and Coke. And until you're drinking 135 proof bourbon, you're going, all right, it's pretty good, right? I mean, I think that's the typical pattern that most people go through.
Except most people don't start a bourbon company.
Yeah, most people don't start a bourbon company.
Being here in Louisville, Kentucky, Derby is a huge part of our culture, and I embrace that culture by throwing the ultimate Rager Derby party. Kenny came over, his wife and my wife were friends. He also brought in a bottle of George T. Stagg. Right then, we kind of connected on the bourbon level, and from there, we just became friends.
It's This Week in Bourbon, and Kenny and Ryan here today talking more about Whiskeyland.
Oh, yeah, another exciting week in bourbon.
It sure is.
Louisville's a big, small town, so you run into each other kind of all over town. And then I had this idea of starting a bourbon podcast. And so I didn't really know how to execute that because I'm a redneck from Bardstown. And I knew Kenny, so I reached out to him. I was like, I have this idea, what do you think about it?
Every good idea is taken already. There's no way it's going to work. And yeah, so he approached me with it and I said, well, let's go and look and see what other podcasts there are. At the time, there was a few of them out there, but anything that was true bourbon focused was just a bunch of guys sitting around a microphone, sniffing Elmer T. Lee and just cracking jokes. And I was like, I don't want to listen to this. Like, there's got to be a different way. And that's kind of when that aha moment hit. And I said, well, that's what's missing is like, how do we give a voice from the people that are inside these distilleries to connect with the fans and the people that know the brands already? One of our first phone calls was to Buffalo Trace to get Harlan Wheatley, the master distiller of Buffalo Trace, on. And they were like, sure, you want to come next week?
All
All right, so we're gonna go try some of our toasted bourbon. So what's cool about our toasted bourbon is we'll do a 10-barrel blend, and then we actually split into 2 different totes. And one tote we'll put in French oak medium toasted staves, and the other we'll do American oak medium toasted staves. We found that blending them separately with the 2 different woods and putting them back together really just kind of complements each other. So I taste it once a week just to make sure that it's heading in the right direction, or if we need to go ahead and pull those staves out of the tote.
Not ready.
Yeah, that one's getting much more closer than the American oak. We weren't seeing any traction. We weren't monetizing the show. And so we really thought about hanging it up, and we didn't release an episode for a week or 2. And people on Twitter started asking, well, where's the next episode and this and that. And they were the ones that convinced us to keep going. And they actually encouraged us to start a Patreon community. It's kind of like NPR. Fans can support you at various monthly rates. And that really kind of catapulted us to where we are today.
Even though you had that first wind, at some point you're like, okay, it might still not be enough. And we didn't really know what it was going to be. And I remember looking at Ryan, I was like, I think we have until Christmas. Like after Christmas, I don't know if I can do this anymore just because of the amount of time that's going into this. The ROI is still not there. Lo and behold, a good buddy of ours, Fred Minnick, calls us up. And he's like, hey, my PR people told me I should start a podcast. I don't know if that's a good idea. I want to partner with you all. And when Fred joined the show, it really gave us another boost of just authenticity, another level of education that nobody else could have. And he opened doors for us that weren't there before. For years, we tried to get Independent Stave to come on the show to just talk about barrels. They didn't want anything to do with us. As soon as Fred comes on, he makes one phone call. The next week, we have the president and CEO coming on the show.
So let's go ahead and introduce our guest. So today we have Brad Boswell. Brad is the CEO and also the 4th generation Cooper, or he just likes to call himself a barrel maker at Independent Stave Company. So Brad, welcome to the show.
Finally grew to the point where we became, and I hate saying it, but almost like experts in the field, where we can give a lot of good information and be seen as people that are trustworthy too.
We're bourbon influencers, which I hate that word, but I can't find another one.
With their podcast full steam ahead, Kenny and Ryan could finally see a sustainable future on the horizon. But then they received a phone call from a man in Memphis asking if they wanted to start a whiskey brand of their own.
Well, tell us more. I always joke we shouldn't have taken the phone call.
Deciding against starting a distillery from scratch, they opted to start Pursuit Spirits as an NDP.
NDP is a non-distilling producer.
So I kind of categorize NDPs into 2 different categories.
NDPs that source and NDPs that contract distill. NDPs that source find brokers who have stocks of barrels using generic mash bills. Or you can contract distill, which means
you actually partner with the distillery and they make your own recipes and your own mash bills. You pick out your own barrels, your own char, your toast level.
Kenny and Ryan decided to follow the contract route, utilizing different facilities from around the country. And they relied on Ryan to blend these barrels to create unique flavor profiles.
Barrel Bourbon was kind of the ones that paved the path for us. They were taking sourced ingredients from different contract facilities and blending them together, and they've had huge success. We went a step further and went to contract distillation, and where we get our mash bill made to our specs.
I thought about the risk these guys were taking, and I asked Ryan about the first barrels they ever bought from the contract facility in Memphis.
You go in this warehouse and there's literally 20,000 barrels on pallet racks, and you get a spreadsheet of it and you're like, well, that one looks interesting, that looks interesting. So we went through and tasted through about 100 different barrels, and then we found 3 that we absolutely loved. We're 2 broke guys from Kentucky. We have no, family history, no money. So we really scrapped together $15,000 to buy those first 3 barrels. We sold those 3, bought 6 more, sold those 6, bought 10 more, and then just kept snowballing and buying more and more barrels. So there's days where you just want to like, oh my gosh, I want to throw in the towel. But, you have your buddy there with you and he's working just as hard and you kind of build off each other. He has, really good strengths that I'm very weak at and vice versa. So it's kind of been a match made in heaven.
We just have that kind of personality that, I don't know if it just doesn't quit, but we're just motivated, and we just want to see sort of like that goal line, even though it keeps getting pushed, but we just keep trying to push even closer to it.
We're too dumb to quit. This is our sophisticated pillow, for help bracing the fall.
An NDP, at its bare minimum, could buy barrels, bottle the whiskey, slap a label on them, and take it to market. But after spending only a few hours with Ryan and Kenny, I understood that the easy way isn't the goal for Pursuit Spirits, and that they are truly on a pursuit to create exceptional whiskey.
Nose on's great. Kenny, you gotta try this one. It's nice and fruity, chocolatey.
Who's this one for?
That's for no one.
Is it? That's ours?
That's one in the works.
Good. Let's keep that for ourselves then.
Yeah.
Do barrels ever go missing?
We try not to.
Not yet.
Not yet.
We're not that big yet.
Yeah.
I don't have to really worry about it going missing. One of these days.
To me, success is doing what we love and keep showing up. But there's obviously, it'll feel a lot better. Because some days you're like, gosh, this just feels like we're getting punched in the face every day. But it definitely looks like it's going to feel a lot better in 2026.
I think for me, success will be when we only have a job, right? Between the podcast and this, and we're just in Bourbon full time. Honestly, I think that's one of the things that we're truly both looking forward to. We have passion in this. It truly is. And this is really what this all stems from, is just passion. And if we can do that, then, that's goalpost number one. Goalpost number two is that we reduce our work balance from 80 to 90 hours a week, maybe to a true 40. And then maybe after that, maybe we get down to 20, 30 hours a week. Right now we're literally doing everything from marketing to sweeping floors to blending to bottling to compliance. I mean, you name it. We're a two-person company. We've got some help and stuff like that, but we're doing everything.
And Kenny wasn't exaggerating. During filming, I bumped a table with a bottle of their bourbon and it shattered onto the cement floor. Kenny joked that they always break one for good luck to make me feel better about the party foul I'd just committed.
Welcome everybody here to Pursuit Spirits. You're getting ready to embark on what we call the whole shebang. You don't get a chance to go and select your own barrel of bourbon. We've had the opportunity to do it hundreds of times, and it never gets old. So we looked at it and we said, well, let's democratize this. Let's make this accessible to everybody. But you don't actually have to have the whole fiduciary responsibility of buying the entire barrel, plus agreeing with your favorite 6 friends to figure out, well, which one are you going to select? So today, you're going to actually be able to select the barrel that actually speaks to you. And I call it the whole shebang because I'm terrible at marketing and I don't know a better word to do it. And so I said, if we're just going to throw everything at you, let's go ahead and just call it what it is. So we started hatching up the idea of actually creating micro blends of all of our different products. So by being able to take 20% of one barrel, 50% another, a full of another, so on and so forth. So you create something that's around 2 to 5 barrels inside the blend. And what we do is we take that blend, but then we re-enter it from the barrels that they came from. And since we're working with 2 rye-based bourbons, a wheated bourbon, we have 3 different cooperages, varying amounts of char levels. Once we let it sit for about a month and a half, all the flavors start changing inside that barrel. This allows us to create something unique every single time. Every single barrel is a snowflake, so no matter what we do, we can never recreate these barrels.
Oh, it's delicious.
You just pick the barrel that speaks to you, and you go and fill your own bottle up directly from the barrel with a whiskey thief.
All right, so it's just like a big copper straw, right?
Okay.
Have you ever done that at a restaurant? You put it in there, put your thumb in it, and hold it up. That's
Gotcha.
exactly what that is. So just
Okay.
go ahead, put it in there. Let it sit for about 3 to 5 seconds. It starts filling up the chamber.
And then do I fill it or cover it now?
Then you'll go ahead and cover it.
Okay.
And with your second hand, once you pull it out, you'll kind of just like hold the base of it, and then just put it right here into. There it is. Yeah.
Oh, this is so nerve-wracking. I did not expect. I love this. This is awesome. Thank you for letting me do this.
Yeah. One more. Perfect. So go ahead and wipe it down so we get good adhesion to it.
All right. We did it.
Look
Easy.
at that. Go ahead and hit this foot pedal right here.
Just press it down once.
Yep.
Or just...
Push it down once. There you go. Easy enough.
I did it?
Yep. Do it like a 4 count, and then you're gonna pull it back out.
All right. So here we go.
Yep.
1, 2, 3, 4.
There you go.
That's
Look
it.
at that.
Wow. Hey.
Money.
Yeah, you burned it the first time, I think, right?
Let's see it. Let's see it.
Look, that's perfect. That's beautiful.
All right, whatever.
On the money. Also add a private select label on here too. So if you want to pull off one of these guys, simply just put it right on top of the story.
Like right here?
No, just on top of the label.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Because now it becomes your story.
What? Who said you're not good at sales?
8CB-A-05. There you go. That's all yours.
Thank you. Can I really keep this?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. He's like, he takes the sticker off.
Yeah, I was like, never mind. Back, turn it back, put it back in the barrel.
It's like, I told you we're a startup.
They did let Ryan keep the bottle. Seeing the CNC on the label made me think about Pursuit's future and their legacy. I thought about what it would be like to find one of their bottles 100 years from now. And I asked them if they had ever considered their story.
You do research people that got in the industry, like George Garvin Brown, you know, who started Old Forester, and he was just a scrappy young entrepreneur that went around to different distilleries and bought up whiskey. And you hear that story and you're like, wow, that sounds like us. And, you know, and so that's kind of cool that one day our story can be told, that there's just two guys that really wanted to know more about the category, more what was behind the scene. And they went on the pursuit of the knowledge, but then that led them to the pursuit of the best whiskey. And then, you know, that story is that something that connect to anyone and everyone.
The Taylors were the ones that actually owned this building before us, and so it doesn't actually have any historical context.
Yeah, it's not E.H. Taylor.
Unfortunately,
It's some regular Taylors.
Yeah, so welcome to the new home at Pursuit Spirits. What you're standing in right now is going to be the gift shop, sort of retail center. We'll bring the Whole Shebang here. We'll bring the United Breakdown, and pretty much anything else that we can conjure up, this is where it's going to happen. And then up to you all. You want to go to the basement? It's a dingy, dirty place.
Is it a murder zone or is it?
No.
No, we never saw them again.
I've seen this movie before, man. I don't know.
So right about here is where going to be the stairs and the elevator that'll be coming down. And this is where you'll be coming into the bar and whiskey tasting room area. Back here, they have like these old catacombs. Like there'll be a kind of like a seating area inside here. You can kind of see like the arched entranceway that's over there.
And right above us is actually Main Street.
So we'll be moving the podcast studio down here. And really it was a way to give folks an idea of like, this is where we came from. Like gives us the ability to show them, like when they're sitting here, like this is a story unlike anybody else.
Looking forward to 100 years from now, it'd be kind of cool that, you know, hey, that our name's on the bottle. We started that, you know, that was our pursuit. And so
This is my granddad's defunct bourbon company.
yeah, my grandpa was a broke podcaster who started a bourbon company. So, you know, he'll get to tell that stories to his great grandkids and whatnot. So.
Yeah, so we've been traveling with these Fin Glacé whiskey glasses, and what's really cool about them, outside of being super durable for travel, is that they have a glass insert that like you just push down, and it's like super sealed, and that allows, you know, when you're pouring your whiskey, it keeps the flavor from being tainted by the steel, and at the same time having that, like, you know, that armor, so you don't break your glass, but you can still drink out of glass while you're on the go. And it's super quality. They have like great colors. Yeah, it's been perfect for us for this trip. So I love them. They feel good. They look good. Feel good, look good. Fin Glacé.